Right, clamps off. Joint looks pretty good. I've got some glue squeeze out to take care of before I can route along the side. I'm planning to use the side of the neck, the mahogany of the neck, as a guide for my bearing. So if there's dollops of glue there, then that's not going to work. So I'm going to get a shot of those first with a chisel. So I think a chisel that's sharp would probably be better. Yeah, that's better. Right. Now, quite a lot of squeeze out along here. And some people say that you should always wipe your squeeze out away with a damp rag, and some people don't. And I find that with mahogany, if you wipe it with a damp rag, then all you're doing is working the glue into the grain. And then if you're using like a coloured grain filler, say like a black grain filler to highlight the grain, or you're staining it or something, then the grain's already full of glue and the stain or the grain filler doesn't take very well. So I prefer to just let it dry as is, and then that just sort of reduces the amount that soaks into the grain. Of course, the best thing to do would be to just use the right amount of glue so you don't have squeeze out everywhere, but that's not what I did. Right, so I'm going to rough this out on the bandsaw. I'll just turn it upside down, cut as close as I can, and then I will use one of these, I don't know, is this got a top bearing or a bottom bearing bit? Who knows. Anyway, that bearing will just run along here and then trim the fretboard flush with the neck. out. I've just got a fraction of a mil to take off with a router, and then they'll be flush. So do that next. The beauty of slotting your fretboards after they're on the neck is you can just cut these little slithers off here, and they've got 3 perfectly straight faces, and they're just the right length to use for fretboard binding. So 2 rosewood binding strips, 2 ebony, so they'll go in the pile for another build. Now I've got a little, this is a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch collet, or 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch collet, whichever way you want to look at it. Because my small router is kaput, I've only got the big router, and that's 1/2 inch. And I can only find these bits in a 1/4 inch. Right then, this is absolutely the same setup as before. I'm just going to whiz along the top of the router while I've got the neck pinched in the workmate. Glued on. You should be able to see pretty good joints. Obviously you can see it because there's 2 different pieces of wood, but there's no gaps, which is the main thing. To be honest, if there were, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to come off. It could be hidden with binding, or it could be hidden with some wood dust, especially on dark woods like ebony and rosewood. If you put some sawdust mixed with a bit of super glue, filled any gaps, you'll never see it. Anyway, so next up, I don't know what I'm going to do next. Maybe I'll shape the headstocks. I could do that, drill some tuner holes. I could get the headstocks down to thickness, or I could radius the fretboards. I'm not going to slot them until after I've radiused them, put a radius into the fretboards, because I'll need to get the depth right for the slots, and if you slot before radiusing, chances are you've just got to come back and slot them again to get the right depth once the radius is in. Also, the beauty about radiusing the fretboard first, then slotting them, is there's a lot less wood than if you just stuck one of those fretboard blanks into one of those miter jigs. There's a lot of sawing involved, and you think all of this, you know, the majority of that is waste wood, especially when you take into account the radiusing and the thicknessing and whatnot as well. That's why I do it by hand when it's on the neck. I just wanted to mention these tenons quickly. I said in the last episode that I was going to tidy these ends up here on the spindle sander. I didn't say why, and the reason for that is because I was using a handheld router and it's a bit iffy trying to route end grain with a big router balanced on top of a 2-inch wide piece of wood. So that's why I'm doing that. And also on the rosewood I have a slight dilemma. This is an issue I knew I was going to have. However, I hadn't decided how to solve it, which is why I haven't mentioned it yet. So obviously the pickup is a lot smaller than a humbucker in a pickup ring, which this is exactly the right size to cover. So my options are, I could put this P90 in a pickup ring, which would look awful in my opinion, or I could mount the P90 so that it's at the back of the ring and then have some kind of filler piece in here. Now I didn't want to have the fretboard reaching all the way as far as the pickup, because that would have meant quite a large gap after the 24th fret, and that would look weird. So yeah, I could put a filler piece, I could put a bit of rosewood, which would essentially do the same thing as having a longer fretboard, only be more annoying. Or I could put like a black plastic slither, like a piece of pickguard or something, in there. Or I could butt it up to the bottom of the fretboard and have a little kind of decorative, maybe rosewood, little kind of filler strip underneath here, which could look quite nice. Or I could just cut the tenon slightly shorter. It's about 5 or 6 mil, there's not much. So I could cut the tenon slightly shorter and modify the neck pocket route. And then obviously that would mean I have a shorter tenon, which is weaker technically, but because this is joining on the 22nd fret, not the 23rd fret, I've got a little bit of leeway, I think. So I think it would still be a strong neck pocket. So those are my options. Pick up here with a decorative bit, pick up there with a filler bit, or shorter tenon. So maybe stick something in the comments below, let me know what you think we should do.